Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to rise in the House to speak on this issue of climate change. It's, I believe, one of the greatest environmental challenges of our time. And this file, Mr. Speaker, has befuddled federal governments for over 2 decades. So I'm glad to see that the current government has come forward with a plan. I note that the current government has adopted the targets established by the previous Conservative government under Prime Minister Stephen Harper at Copenhagen, which is a 30% reduction in greenhouse gases below 2005 levels by 2030. Even though in Paris, I note that the current government said that this target was a minimum target and that they would come forward with a stronger target. But clearly, Mr. Speaker, that's not the case. And it's also something, Mr. Speaker, to note that they promised in their election platform in which they said, quote, targets must recognize the economic cost and the catastrophic impact that a greater than 2-degree increase in average global temperatures, end quote. That's on page 40 of their platform. Mr. Speaker, to be clear, the House should know that the 30% target adopted by this government does not meet that election commitment to keep global warming to a 2-degree limit. But, Mr. Speaker, I commend the government for coming forward with some plan so that the House can debate it. And I've believed long that the federal government needs to do better in reducing emissions. And that's something I've said not just on this side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker, it's something I said consistently when we were sitting on the other side of the aisle. The way to reduce emissions, Mr. Speaker, is to price carbon, to take what is an externality to our economic system and internalize it by pricing it. But, Mr. Speaker, there's a right way to price carbon and there is a wrong way to price carbon. The right way to price carbon is based on 3 important principles. The first is consistent prices across all regions of the country and across all economic sectors. The second, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure that no backdoor equalization takes place. And the third principle is revenue neutrality, not to the government collecting the revenue, but revenue neutrality to the taxpayer who is paying the revenue.